Hey YouTube, this is Justin here, aka Demonic Sweaters. Today we got another drum lesson, and what we're going to be talking about is perfecting your double stroke roll like you just saw right there. And what I mean by perfecting is getting it as close to sounding like a single stroke roll as you can. So yeah, right there I was transitioning between singles into doubles, and they sounded pretty close. Not perfect, but pretty darn close. And the way to achieve that, well, first off, maybe you first need to learn how to do the double stroke roll altogether. So in order to do that, the first thing you're going to need to do is to learn how to bounce the stick correctly. And to learn how to bounce the stick correctly, first you need to make sure you're holding it correctly. And I've talked about this in many videos, but the proper technique for holding the stick is to make sure that your thumb is on the stick, your index finger is wrapped around the other side of the thumb, and your back three fingers are still on the stick. You're not sticking them out like this. If you see people doing a double stroke roll like this, sure, you can do it, but you have very little control of the stick if you do that. So make sure your back fingers, including the pinky, are on the stick as well, because all those fingers can basically, they're the little nuances that control the stick. So what we're going to do is first just make sure you're holding the stick right. Don't squeeze in the back fingers, but leave them close to the stick here and just drop it down to the practice pad or the snare drum or whatever you're using. And then do the other hand. Now the first time you do this, you might, not get a good bounce. Make sure you're not holding the stick too far up. If you do that, you won't get a good bounce, or too far back, you won't get a good bounce either. So the back of your hand, you should have about an inch sticking out from the back of your hand on both sticks. Another thing that will kill the bounce is if you hit the edge, the rim of the drum or the pad. That'll kill the bounce, so try not to do that. And what you're gonna do is, once you get that bounce, start putting less time in between the two bounces and go back and forth with your hands. Now the trick here is your back fingers, those three fingers that I said do not take off the stick. The more pressure you apply to those back fingers, the faster the stick will bounce. And what we want is eventually 2 clean hits. Now the way to achieve this is think about your second hit. In the beginning, you should be thinking about the second hit being loud. Try to make it louder than the first hit. Make sure you're not using your wrist. You're not going. You want those fingers to be doing it. And of course, it's not really going to be louder. We don't want it to be louder, but if you try to make it louder, you're going to strengthen that second bounce. And then eventually you will be able to get those 2 even hits, the even clean bounces. Like this is what we want. And notice how my back fingers are still on the stick. In the beginning, it's perfectly okay if it sounds like more of a buzz. We do call this a buzz roll. Now another thing too is make sure your hands are not like this. You don't want the sticks to be going outward when you're hitting. You want your hands to be, your sticks to be pointed towards the middle of the drum. And the best way to do that is to keep your hands overturned. You don't have to have them perfectly flat, but more overturned than outer turned. Now I'm not really squeezing very hard up here. However, the faster you do the roll, you do have to apply more pressure to hold onto the stick. So if it's a really fast double stroke roll, then I am squeezing, I'm pinching a little bit more than I would on a slow double stroke roll. Interestingly though, the slow, clean double stroke roll is probably the hardest to do out of all of those. You can see mine starts to break apart there. It would be easier with heavier sticks. These are, what are these, 5As. That's another thing I should mention is get yourself some 2Bs. When you're first learning, it's very helpful to use 2Bs because they're heavier sticks and they'll get your hands stronger. And don't buy cheap maple sticks because those are never as heavy as the real hickory sticks like Pro Marks. I highly recommend Pro Mark sticks or LA Specials. LA Special are like Pro Mark's cheaper brand. But I've been playing Pro Marks for years and they are just my absolute favorite stick. So I highly recommend Pro Marks. But, Vic Firth are nice too. Zildjian sticks are okay. Regal Tip. All the major brands make some quality sticks. Okay, so hopefully you found that helpful. And let me know in the comments your progress, or if you have any questions or whatever, just let me know down there. Check out my links down below too. Check out my playlist on Spotify as well as my record label. Anyway, have a great day.